Hi, everybody. Welcome to Monday Night Team Call. My name is Leah Pearson, and I am a Senior Ruby Ambassador that's also a homeschool mom of 3 kids. I tutor, I'm a ministry leader. I wear a lot of different hats. And when I was approached with Plexus initially, I was too busy to even think about doing the business. And now I'm a year and a half in, and I absolutely love doing this. And I was not too busy. I just had to learn a couple of things, and I wanted to share some of that with you guys tonight. So I was actually scheduled to do team call a little bit closer to Christmas, but I talked to Jamie and I felt like this would be really good timing to get this call in at the beginning of November here. So we can absolutely have a phenomenal end to this year and be intentional over the holidays in not only our business, but with our families too. But it's really going to be determined by what we do the next week to set ourselves up for a great end to 2021. So I wanted to open up just initially here with a couple mindset things about just the holiday season. And I really want to encourage you. This is everything that I'm saying tonight is stuff that I've reflected on myself. So it's you and me both, but check your thoughts on the subject of time in regards to the holidays. And let's just decide right now that we're not going to have a victim mindset about it. So what are you saying to yourself? Because if it's negative, if you're saying I'm too busy, I don't have enough time, if you have lots of buts, then you're right by saying those things. You aren't going to actually move forward and find a solution. You're just choosing to stay there. So this is where affirmations come in. And we talk a lot about affirmations with this team. If you're around us at all, you're going to hear that a lot. But I really think that the magic happens with affirmations when we really reflect on like the specific dialogue that's going on in our brain. And this is something that I've been talking to my team about a lot. What are the specific negative thoughts that you're dealing with or that you're speaking? Right now, we're specifically talking about like time and the holidays and just the busyness coming up. But figure out what those are very specifically. And then we need to specifically counter those with truth and with things that we want to see to come to pass. So if you're saying that you don't have enough time in the day or you're overwhelmed, your brain's going to stay in chaos mode instead of searching for a solution. So you really need to dig in and reflect on that inner dialogue. I think that's a step that we miss sometimes in affirmations. We just have kind of like general affirmations, which are good, but the magic happens when they're very specific to what you are struggling with. So that's the first thing. And then in regards to problem solving about time, I've got a quote that I found that I love, and it says this: time is free, but it's priceless. You can't own it, but you can use it. You can't keep it, but you can spend it. Once you have lost it, you will never get it back. And that's by Harvey Mackay. Becoming purposeful with your time, this is what I've learned, shows that you respect your life and it helps you to achieve your highest level, both in your business and your life's work. So the problem isn't necessarily time. I think so often we think, oh, the problem is time. It's not necessarily time. The problem is that you are underestimating your value. The problem is that you do not know how valuable you are. And if you did know how valuable that you are, you wouldn't be wasting time anymore. So do you know your value? That's where we need to start. Do you know your worth? Because you're going to treat your days much more intentionally if you realize that you have value. So if you need help digging in with this, talk to me. I do have some references I can send you, or of course, talk to your sponsor about that. So that's the first step. You're valuable and your time is valuable. So let's not let our days slip away and let's be intentional. So if you are legitimately feeling like you do not have enough time in the day, many of us are busy. I listed some of the things I'm involved in. I know we've got people that work full time and do this. I know there's people on here that have a pile of kids and you've got extracurriculars that you're running to. Every time I'm talking to Jamie, she's headed to hockey practice or whatever. There's a lot going on. We're all busy. But if you are feeling like you do not have enough time, you need to go looking for it. Go looking for time. Where are you losing it in your days? And that can vary widely depending on who you are. Is it in the mornings? Is it in the evenings because you're scrolling too long before bed and then you're staying up too late and then you're not getting up on time? Where are you losing time? One thing that I found helpful is I got a time management app probably about a year ago, just to track like my days. And so I tracked what my typical day looked like for about 3 days to see where I had some gaps, to see where I was losing time. Because once you can identify where those pockets of time are at, then you can assign tasks to them once you've actually identified them. So the app that I used last year, I don't know if it's around still, it was called Moments, and it was just super easy to pop in there and track what I was doing. You can also use a pen and paper, but I think it's a really good idea to really reflect on like what your days actually look like and not cheat and be like, I'm going to look like I'm more productive than I am. Like do it, so that you're really can use it as a tool. So one thing that I like to ask myself is, if I was my most productive self, what would my days look like? And then I like kind of put together a mock schedule to see how I can plan out my days. So there's a million different videos on time management, on different methods. I know Christina Williams, one of our sidelines, she talks about time blocking all the time. She posts about it all the time. She's like the time blocking guru. A method that I use that's more of, I don't know if it even has a name, but it's kind of like a flow schedule where I have like an order to my day, but the time frames are really flexible. So it's like, this is the order of events, but that really works a lot better for me because I have kids at home with me all day. And anybody who has kids knows that you cannot plan that everybody's going to be right on task without having a meltdown or whatever. And I also think that it's really helpful for like when you're in momentum and you need to take phone calls whenever. A flow schedule just has worked really well for me. But the key, I think a lot of times we can get so stuck on watching 50 videos on time management and what kind of method that we should use that you waste a whole bunch of time. So the big thing is, let's look at how we are stewarding our time, like looking at those pockets of time and be intentional with that. But some of those things are helpful. Like the flow helps me just stay on task. So when you are making your mock schedule, there's going to be 4 main categories for time as you're planning things out. So jot things down as they fall into those categories. So the first one would be family time. So that's anything like dinner with your family, if you're educating your kids, whether you're homeschooling or you have to do homework with them, kids activities, if you've got a baby, taking care of the baby, stuff like that. So family time. Number 2 would be personal time or like creative time. So that'd be like working out, any hobbies you're doing, reading a book, prayer, meditation, lunch out, stuff like that. Number 3 is going to be work, and that's going to include Plexus work, or if you have a day job or any sort of income producing activity. Write stuff down. What do you do in that category? And then the last one would be time managements or management time. So like cleaning your house, organizing, grocery shopping, paying doctor's bills, stuff like that. List all these things out from these different categories. And then, like I said, try to put together that mock schedule and just kind of look like, all right, how can I fit these in here and be productive? And one thing I wanted to mention too is you do not have to run yourself into the ground. You should include rest in this. I am a firm believer in working hard, but I also know that when you are resting and resting intentionally, then you are going to be much more productive. So start with this typical mock schedule. And then for the next 60 days, you're also going to need to be adding in holiday time. That is going to be another category, like the 5th category, just for the next 60 days, because it starts right now. And that's going to include anything from planning your presents, wrapping, if you've got to cook extra, if you're hosting, so you've got to clean extra or whatever it is, family time, family gatherings, extra kids events, the Christmas concerts, all of that stuff, shopping, all of those things. So one thing that has been a game changer for me, and I highly recommend for you guys, is to implement what I call high yield weekend work. And this is work that you maybe struggle to get done or is time consuming during the week, or maybe it's emotionally or mentally draining for you during the week, whether it's plexus or non-plexus. So I bring this up now because I'm going to strongly encourage you to execute all of your holiday stuff on the weekends. And I'll share a little bit more why in a minute. But I want to give you kind of an overview of some ideas for high yield weekend work. So everybody's different. You're going to have to decide what this looks like for you. A quick personal example, something that I just started implementing. I am terrible at folding and putting my laundry away. And I know like Marley's on here. She's like the queen of getting her laundry put away. I wish I was. I'm not. It's so bad. and it ticks me off. And honestly, it was just stressful for me to remember to fold my laundry. And that sounds silly, but we don't watch TV really during the week. We will pop a movie on the weekend. So I'm sitting with my family. And so I decided I'm going to buy a couple extra laundry baskets, throw all of my laundry that's clean into those laundry baskets, and I fold during a movie. That way it's one less thing for me to think about during the week. That for me is high yield weekend work. So what does that look like for you? Here's some other examples. If you struggle with social media content, if that's something where you're sitting down and you feel like you're burning a lot of time because you struggle with writing posts, getting them pre-written over the weekend, that is really, really helpful. There's some good posts in the team page on that. John Converse had a great call. I don't know if it was last week or the week before, I can't remember, but she showed exactly how she stores those in her phone. And I thought that was really, really good. So make sure you watch that call. That was really good. But just getting those knocked out on the weekend, that makes your IPA go so much quicker during the week. Doing like a morning message catch up, just one of your weekend days, catch up on messages you got behind on. For me, if I come into Monday and I feel like I'm buried in messages, a lot of times that stresses me out. So if I can take a load off before starting the week and make sure that I've got my people taken care of, that just mentally is better for me. So just taking 30 minutes to do that is helpful. Another example of high yield weekend work, like follow up on Fridays. I know Friday is not technically a weekend, but maybe Fridays can be a massive follow up day for you. If you've got some big goals, still do your regular IPA, but can you add an extra 30, 40 follow-ups on a Friday? Make sure you're getting in touch with your people and doing it intentionally. Another really good one would be refreshing your lists for the upcoming weeks. You should have reach out lists, follow-up lists, a general to-do list. It makes your IPA go so quick during the week if you have those updated. Reflect from the week, like what's working, what isn't, where are you losing time, like reassessing those time pockets. That's always really good. General life organization. Like if you feel like your house is exploded, I've learned this from experience, rather than being a crazy woman and going on this crazy cleaning spree, just decide ahead of time that I'm going to clean my house on the weekends, or pick a specific day to do it, rather than thinking, I am going to go and just clean my house during IPA time like a psycho. And then you're fooling yourself to think that you're being productive when really you're putting your IPA off. Anybody done that? Because I've done that before. It makes you feel good to like knock it off the list, right? But there's something really powerful about doing the hard things first. So do your IPA first. It's harder to do that, but just do it. If you need to pick like a specific cleaning day or something, that works too. A really good way to grow your network is to engage in Facebook groups. If you've not done that before, make sure you talk to your sponsor about that. But adding value in those groups on the weekend is good. Coming up with even like social media content that you can put specifically in those groups. Like that's something I've been trying to do, is add value specifically in those groups. So you can even like plan posts for that over the weekend as well while you're planning your other posts. Meal prepping is another one. If you guys have any other ideas that are coming to mind, pop them in the chat, because I think that'd be helpful if we all saw some other ideas. And then the last one is holiday. And that's why I'm bringing that up right now. Holiday shopping, you're packing, you're mailing, all of your holiday busy work. I'm saying, I think it would be a good idea for you to do it on the weekend. So if you're doing it on the weekend, you're not going to be tempted to intertwine it with your work. So here's some reasons why I think that it would be really a good high yield weekend work. If you are being a squirrel in intertwining your Christmas shopping and your work, you're going to take 5 times as long to complete anything. Your brain's not going to be functioning at the capacity that it's capable of, and you're going to be exhausted. So you need to set parameters around your work time, like the no cleaning thing. That's a rule right now, everybody. No cleaning. I've made that rule myself. So make sure that it is separate. Something that I do is I set a pad of paper next to me while I'm working, or even while I'm doing my devotions. So that way I can brain dump if something comes to mind while I'm doing my IPA. Kind of like Jen said, set those timers. Watch her team call. It was so good. Set those timers. I am going to do my reach outs for 15 minutes and I'm not going to do anything else. And if something came to mind for my 5-year-old for Christmas, I'm going to write it down and I'll come back to that. I'm not jumping on Amazon. Do not go back and forth between your IPA and your Christmas list. So that's my first suggestion. My other suggestion would be to shop now. And anybody who's a planner is like, yes, preach it, girl. And if you guys are procrastinators, you're probably mad at me right now. It's a good idea to get it out of the way for your emotional and mental well-being, because if you get it over with, you're going to be able to focus on serving your team and serving your family really well over the holidays. So just regarding Plexus, like family aside right now, over the holidays, people need extra support and encouragement these next few months. They're going to be off schedule, eating rich foods, and stressed out. And if you're stressed out and struggling too, you're not going to be able to pour into them. So plan ahead so you can best serve your people. And this is going to help with your retention too. So how to execute holiday time. Make sure you're doing it outside of work hours. Make your lists ahead of time. Have lists for your gifts. So you're tracking your gifts, what duties you have, dates. So that way it's not floating around in your brain, because that's tiring if it's just going around up here. I know this is mostly women tonight. We're the ones in charge of all this stuff. And you're a business owner too. So we've got to make this work. Decide right now how you're going to shop. Do you need to just shop the easiest way possible this year? I know a lot of us like to support local. Do you just need to get on Amazon? Like, is that something you just need to do this year? I did that. If you are shopping local, can you get multiple gifts from the same place? Can you get gift cards? Can you simplify? Like, just make it easy on yourself. Figure out what you need to do, check it off so you're not up at night with that running list through your head and you're not tempted to shop on Amazon during your IPA time. It's emotionally exhausting to have uncompleted tasks looming, and it's going to affect your performance as well as your emotional and mental well-being. So check your holiday stuff off the list as soon as possible. Otherwise, it's going to just literally be looming over your head this whole time. You guys are going to laugh at me. I've got 75% of my shopping done as of last week, and it feels so good. Very freeing. So if you're 100% against getting your shopping done, that's okay too. But I just am really encouraging you to make sure that you are very disciplined with your time then. You're going to have to really step it up. I wanted to get it out of the way so there's no temptation and I can just focus in on serving my family, serving my team, and not have any distraction. In this season, another huge determining factor of your success is deciding ahead of time what your non-negotiables are going to be for the last 60 days of the year, or whatever it is. I think it's 60 days. Decide now, what are the most important things in all areas of your life, whether it's your family, your business, all of it. That way you are at peace with what you decided ahead of time based on your long-term vision and what's most important for your family and this holiday season. There may be some sacrifices this year. You're going to have to ask yourself, is it worth it for me to take a year off from something to continue to pour into my business, to serve my team, and to serve my family well? Will it be worthwhile? What is the long-term vision? And remember too, like, it's not forever. Just because you're laying some things down maybe this year, it doesn't mean that that's going to be how it always is. So be deliberate now in making those choices ahead of time. That's why I wanted to do this call now. We need to do this now, about what our non-negotiables are. That way we can eliminate the guessing game. So I want you to check in with your sponsor before the end of the week. This is the first week of November. Check in with your sponsor before Friday and talk to them about what your non-negotiables are. Plexus and family, make a list. If you don't decide the negotiables and non-negotiables now, you're going to be making decisions along the way over the next couple of weeks, like in the heat of the holidays, and they're going to be emotional or fleshly decisions based on how you feel, and it's going to be really easy for shame or guilt to creep in if you're not deciding ahead of time. For example, what I mean by that is, say you always bake Christmas cookies with your kids or whatever it is, and you keep that an open-ended thing and don't decide whether it's negotiable or non-negotiable. That's going to create issues along the way, because then you're going to have to make a spur of the moment decision, and probably with emotions running high in the moment. I've always made these cookies, or this is how it's always been, whatever it is. And then you turn into monster mom because you're exhausted and emotional and you don't have your priorities or your boundaries set in place, and you're not thinking long-term, you're thinking in the moment. Or maybe you put your business to the side and you skip out on your IPA for a couple of days because you got busy doing XYZ. That is an emotional decision or a fleshly decision too, because you're not drawing the line in the sand ahead of time. And then you feel guilt or shame around like your business activity because you didn't keep that promise to yourself. So here's the other thing. If you don't decide you're non-negotiable now, then important things like your Advent reading, and your business, whatever they are, those are two things that are my non-negotiables that I've already decided on. Those are going to slide. So you already made them an option in your brain by not making a definite decision now. And in the moment, you're probably not going to feel like doing it because you're going to be tired. So you have to decide now. So if I decide ahead of time to not make the cookies this year, for instance, that is going to make it easy for me to stay the course to my vision and remember that there's a purpose in not making the cookies. And it's going to prevent like an emotional roller coaster or mom guilt. I'm at peace with what I've decided ahead of time based on my long-term vision and what's most important for my family this holiday season. So, yeah. Now, in regards to Plexus non-negotiables, number one, of course, is your IPA. So I really liked this analogy. Think of your time like a big glass jar, like maybe like a big pickle jar or something. Now visualize filling that jar with rocks up to the top. It looks full of rocks, right? But if you add in some smaller pebbles, you can get those in there and they're going to fit. And then it's going to look really full, but you can add some sand in there and the sand can fit still. Now, if I did it the other way and I filled my jar to the top with sand, I'm not able to fit in those rocks and those pebbles, right? Those rocks represent any non-negotiables like what we've talked about earlier, but also it refers to like your IPA. So we need to know what our most important tasks are in every area of our life. But in regards to IPA right now, if you fill your day or your work time with non-negotiables or with things that are burning time, then you're not going to have a strong business. And that would be like filling your jar with sand. So we need to be really deliberate with getting our IPA in, which is represented by the rocks, in order of importance. Sometimes you just need to simplify. Super cute, fluffy social media content, homemade graphics, those kinds of things. They're nice. And it is good to have your page full of excellence. But sometimes we just need to simplify. Make sure that you're doing the most important things first. So what is important in IPA? Doing your reach outs, doing your follow-ups, making sure that you are in Messenger, talking to people about Plexus. Your social media content is important. It's important to consistently show up and add value, but how do you need to streamline this? Like, do you just need to go on to the One Plexus Instagram photos and use that for your stories rather than hand making a bunch of stuff or doing a bunch of reels right now? Just if you have to, simplify. Make sure that you are daily developing your leaders, getting into three-way chats, doing coaching calls, checking in with your people, and doing what I call the frog system, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. And then do not let your personal development slide either. We really need to make sure that we are filling up and growing in this season, because as women, we're pouring out a lot over the holidays, and with the stress and everything, it's really important that you are pouring into yourself. Make sure you're still getting events in, make sure you're still doing weekly reflection. All of those things are really important. Make sure you talk to your upline when you check in about what they think are some of the most important things for you to really hone in and focus in on. The second non-negotiable for Plexus is developing silvers the last 2 months of the year. It is non-negotiable. It has got to happen. And the reason why is because over the holidays, money is tight. People overspend all the time. And then a lot of times they're going to put themselves on the back burner. And it's going to make a huge difference if you can get as many people possible having referral money coming in. So everyone needs to be silver. Everyone under you, including product users, they need a paycheck coming in. So make sure that you're revisiting everyone on your team, especially happy product users. Get them to put a post up, get them a paycheck. And then secondly, of course, we want our people to get best results. We want them to be on the products long enough. We did a training on, I think it was like a year ago on the Triplex. Corporate did a training, and they were talking about how if you are on the Triplex for 90 days, it's like it's over 80% likely you're going to be on the products like a year from now. I think that's amazing. And just for me personally, I know a lot of you know my health story. I had significant changes in my health even a year into the products. That's where the magic really happens. So we really want to make sure that they're getting best results. And of course, it also helps us with a strong business with retention if they are staying on the products for over a year, right? So I had a couple people that asked me how I created silvers in one day after I did my live video. I think it was last week. Not that I do that like all the time, but I've had it happen periodically. And I'm not necessarily an expert at developing silvers by any means, but I do feel like I've consistently been able to do it. And one of the things that was really helpful for me in my mindset was that is an analogy that Brooke Hemingway uses. And I thought it was really helpful. So I wanted to share a little bit of that with you. So she calls it the frog system. So if you think of the analogy of a frog in a pot of boiling water, I'm sure you've heard this analogy before. You had to have this pot of boiling water and you put the frog in, the frog is going to literally be alarmed and just jump right out. But if you place that frog in at room temperature, turn up the heat, and it slowly comes up to a boil, that frog is going to stay in the pot and cook to death, right? Not that we want to cook anyone to death, but when you are developing silvers, everybody is different. And so you need to gauge the interest of the person and then turn up the heat as they tolerate it. Some people are going to be super all in and hungry. So you ask them to put a post up or message a few friends, whatever it is, you can turn up the heat a little bit quicker and step them along a little bit quicker if they are reciprocating. Other people are going to jump out of the pot if you're too hot with your pursuit. So you need to turn it up a little bit slower. Ask for a first post. Again, once they have a victory, ask them to grab an accountability partner, but baby step a little more so that they're not jumping out of the pot. Some steps that I always try to lead people through, and one thing that I wanted to mention too, is I always start with casting a big vision. That's something that I am really like, I'm not going to turn away from that. That's something that Jamie did with me, and her and I talk about that a lot. If she would have came at me and been like, hey, you can get your products paid for, or you could, get $400 a month or whatever, I would not have even given her the time of the day. But she gave really big vision where this can literally change your life. And so that is what made me want to jump in. So I really think that it's important to make sure that you're casting big vision, and you can always back down and just kind of read like where they're at after you do that. So cast the big vision, but then marry that with the frog system. So start big, but then also just kind of see where they're at and turn up the heat accordingly. So things that I try to walk them through, I will always ask people for a first post, like as soon as they order while we're on the phone. I always try to get them to post. If they're not going to, then that's okay. If they politely decline, I'm going to ask again. As soon as they have a health victory, I'm like, hey, you should post about that. You're going to really help somebody. I always ask them, who would you love to have do this with you? Think of a couple of close people in your life. It was my mom, my sister-in-law, and my pastor's wife for me. Who would do this with you? If they do that quickly, where they're like messaging people after I talk to them about that, then you can dig in a little bit and turn up the heat and increase it to 5 people, to 10 people, to 30, 40 people, gauging, kind of where they're at. Make sure you host an event. That's always good. But something that I think has been really helpful for me the last couple months, Jamie's talked about this with me, like not making the event the end goal, like make that just kind of a stepping stone. Because if you say, hey, you're going to go silver with this event, it's going to be awesome, and then they don't have anyone in there, it's like, well, they're thinking, I'm not going silver, I guess I'm not getting those referral bonuses. But if you just make it like a part of the process, like, all right, great, we had this event, now I need you to message 5 friends, like giving them a next step and not making the event the end goal, making them silver as the end goal, or getting the $300 or however you're wording it. Ask them to like unbox products live or to put up a post once their products come. So just layering and like asking things in a little bit different ways can go really, really well. And just continue to read where they're at and turn up the heat accordingly. Just because you might turn up the heat slower with some doesn't mean that you need to downplay what's possible. You can still share bold vision while also baby stepping. It's a balance, but I definitely think that we can do it, and we don't need to cower or downplay what is possible. Okay, so I want to wrap it up with this. If you're going to be making $25,000 a month a couple years from now, is it going to be worth it to you to blank this holiday season? What do you need to do to keep moving forward in your business? What kind of decisions or priorities do you need to set? So let's revisit. What does the $25,000 a month mean for you? I don't know if Deborah Johnson's on here, but I've talked to her a little bit or seen her post. She has a big heart for like sex trafficking and like freeing people from that. I love that. She's going to do that with her Plexus paycheck. That's amazing. I know Sue and Sal fund a church in Guatemala. I love that. I am going to fully fund clean water efforts across the world. That's where I'm going. And it's really important that you are connecting with your why again and thinking about what that $25,000 really means. And then when you do that, forgoing making the cookies or hand making the bows for all of your gifts that you're wrapping. I'm doing like all gift bags this year, by the way. Whatever it is, those things are going to seem so small when you're thinking of your long-term vision in big picture. So be so married to your long-term vision of your business that you do it anyway, even when things are exhausting, even when you have a lot going on, or a lot of things are vying for your attention. So just want to end tonight. Remember, you are valuable. Your time is valuable, and you need to conduct yourself accordingly this holiday season. So thank you guys so much for joining. And I think that's it. So have a good night.